It's been a while since I've done a video, and I don't think I've ever done a video of a knife from beginning to end, from scrap to completed item. So I thought this time we would try a classic K-bar. I have got a big old patch of leather for the handle. This little guy is the butt cap from a railroad spike, which is going to be the butt cap of our K-bar. And for the blade and tang, this rusty old piece of crap, which is actually a Nicholson file. Nicholson files are an older type of file. They are made of fully hardenable metal as opposed to current files, which are case hardened. First thing you're going to see me do, let's see if I can get this angle right. Since that's not really a knife shape, we're going to have to heat it up and hammer it square. I'm going to draw out this to make the tang, and then we will forge the point, it's a clip point, over the horn of the anvil, if I can actually work the video editing right. And just before I forget, I actually have the original plans for a K-bar here. That's what I'll be using as my pattern. Okay, ran out of propane yesterday, so now we're on to day 2 of this K-bar build. Now you can see we've flattened out this file quite a bit. It is still too thick this way, and we need to widen it out a little bit. Let's see if I can't switch, but we need to widen it out a little bit to match the pattern. So now you're going to see me start to widen it using a cross-peen hammer, which is a hammer that well, it has a little bar on it that'll make the blade go wider. basic width. It's going to get a little flatter and a little bit wider as we peen out all these hammer marks later, but now we're going to start forming the tip here. juice out of the blade as much as I can, so that saves time on grinding. Alright, so you can see we've got our KSO, which is short for knife-shaped object. Very similar to the plans. Now you notice the tang is a lot longer. This part is a lot longer. That is actually going to be the tang. We're going to actually take an angle grinder and cut this down here. But first things first, we got to grind it flat. So you'll see me reaching down here every once in a while. There's a bucket of water here because metal gets hot when you grind it. Oh, and shout out to Combat Abrasive. I'm using one of their 30 grit this here. Okay, I peened a little too well because I wanted to show you guys this, but if you look here, let's see if I can get it on camera. See that little divot right there? That is a hammer mark. Now, when you saw me going through with the small ball peen hammer, what I was doing is just removing all those hammer marks. See, there's a little indent here, but you can see, sort of see them there. That one is just straight up from using the cross peen. That's what we're grinding out. We want to have a clean slate when we're done grinding here. Okay, so the main thing here is we just wanted to make sure it was flat. We didn't have any hammer marks. You notice I didn't clean up this edge and this edge that much. These are going to be rounded off anyway, and these are going to be beveled, so I really don't care. You'll also notice that the point is rather thick. That's what she said. That is because when you heat treat, or when you're heating it, the thinner the metal, the faster it heats up, and steel can actually burn and lose its ability to hold an edge. So I leave it thick and we grind it thin at the very end. So the next step is going to be, we're going to get a pattern on this, and then we're going to use the angle grinder to cut out the rough edges. Okay, didn't realize my phone was not recording, but as you can see, all we did was take the template that we had, lay it over our blank, and use a Sharpie to black out the parts we don't want. Now we're going to take an angle grinder. I'm going to cut these sections out. We're going to trim this whole thing down. I'm going to leave a little bit of this here, like I said, for the tip, so that when we heat treat, it doesn't overheat, but not too much. Okay, now I'm going to clean up these little pieces on this grinder, which the phone is currently sitting upon. Sorry, these little pieces here. Alright, so you can see we've got the edge bevel marked here on both sides. So now I'm going to do my best to grind in the bevel just by using a sharp angle on here. I suck at grinding bevels, so bear with me. Alright, so there we've got our primary bevel. Now you'll see I left about I don't know if you can see that, I left about a dime's worth of edge on that. That's so it doesn't burn during the heat treat. Now you can see we actually burned the tip a little bit here. and that came off. So we're actually going to have to grind that down a little bit. Now this secondary blade up here is what's called a false edge. It's not actually going to be sharp, so you can see it's not going to be sharp. What I'm going to do now is take a Dremel and put a little thing here called a sharpening choil. All that does is it cleans up this area in between the ricasso and the actual blade. It's not actually on the K-bar plans, but I like them, so I'm putting it on there. Okay, due to some rain delays and some battery issues, I've skipped some steps, but we're back. As you can see, the blade is profiled. It's not going to be very good lighting-wise, but we've also applied what's called gun blue to it. And all this really does is turn the pieces black. So we've got our blade done. This is going to be the butt cap. And I had to remake the guard because I screwed up the first one. So this is the guard, and I wanted to show you guys the bluing process. First thing we're going to do is take some rubbing alcohol, just to clean it off, because if there's any oil on the metal, it will not blue properly. Literally, I'm just scrubbing it down, and then at the end, I'm going to not touch it with my fingers, because my fingers have oil. Have a good clean piece there. And I am out of paper towels. So ideally you want to do this with something that is lint free, but it's not really that important. So this is just super blue gun blue. I'm going to show you guys how quickly this works. I'm sure you're supposed to be wearing gloves when you do this, but no, I'm stupid. So just to show you before, I don't know if you can get the glint on that. See how black that is already. I don't know if that's coming through or not, but this is basically a preservative. It's mainly used on firearms, but it was used on the classic K-bar, so we are going to use it for our parts. Now you can see we got a nice black finish there. Let's see if we can get it in the light a little bit better. Well, it's actually, technically it's a blued finish, but there you go. Now it's going to dry out to be a little bit more even, and then we're going to do another coat, but that gives you an idea of how quickly that stuff works. Traditional K-bar has what's called a stacked leather handle, and that's exactly what it sounds like. It's pieces of leather that are chopped and stacked up and glued. Now normally I would take some scissors and cut this up, but since this is video and you guys don't want to see that, I'll just use my magic powers. So, and just like that, we've got a stack of leather squares, and miraculously these chunks of Kydex spacer actually showed up too, so that was just somewhat fascinating. The next step is going to be, we're going to cut holes in the center of all these, and they are basically just going to thread onto the tang like this. I'm going to skip videotaping me cutting the holes in a crap ton of pieces of leather because it'll be boring as hell, but I'll see you shortly. And here we have our stacked handle with spacers. Now the next step, which I'm not going to show you because it's boring as hell, is I am basically going to soak the hell out of these things with resin, clamp it, and let it sit overnight. I'm sure there's a neater way to do it than this, but here we go. Now it has to dry overnight. All right, day 3 of this K-bar build, coming at me live from the top of my drill press. So this is what the end result of our leather stack looks like. Obviously, this is a hot goddamn mess. What we're going to need to do is cut off a lot of this using our bandsaw here, and then we're going to shape it on several sanders for our desired end result. Since I am cutting polyester resin, PPE is very important. You can see we made the initial cuts here, and you're starting to see that cool K-bar pattern come out. I'm going to cut again along the angles here, and then we're going to maybe cut a little bit of this off, and then we're going to switch over to the belt grinder. Let me tell you, if you love the smell of leather, you will not love the smell of sanding leather. Burnt leather is just a horrible smell. But as you can see, we're starting to get, maybe you can see, we're starting to get the look we're looking for. At this point, we've hogged off most of the mass, so I'm going to switch from this sander to a smaller 1x30 belt grinder. Now, with this, we're going to get our final shape on the handle. Now, you'll notice the butt cap is not on yet. It's because basically I don't feel like having to re-blue it after I sand all the crap off of it, but I'm going to need to make sure that the butt cap fits and it matches up to the handle, so the handle doesn't stick out or stick under the handle. All right, you can see we've got our basic shape down. The traditional K-bar has these, and I put spacers in here to imitate the look. If you look, traditional K-bar actually has filed grooves. There are no spacers in the handle except at the top and the bottom. I like this look better, so I'm going to leave it this way. The next steps are going to be we're going to file down the little burrs here on the end. Get the handguard glued in place. Sorry, get the butt cap glued in place. And then it's cleanup. I'm going to skip the gluing part because you guys aren't going to be interested in seeing that. But after that, we'll be doing some fine hand sanding and cleaning up the parts where we sanded off the blue, and then we're done. And here's our final result.